Have you ever been in a conversation where everything is said except what actually matters? Where the most important words hover in the air, unspoken? That tension between what is felt and what is permitted to be expressed is at the beating heart of two of American literature's most enduring works. The early 20th century was a world in upheaval. Two world wars shattered old certainties. Women won the right to vote in 1920, yet the social expectations placed on them remained rigid and relentless. A woman's worth was still measured almost entirely by her relationship to a man as wife, mother, or object of desire. Modernist literature, emerging in this climate, broke with Victorian convention. Writers like Ernest Hemingway and Arthur Miller turned inward, using sparse dialogue, subtext, and psychological complexity to expose the cracks in the American dream. What they revealed was a society in which gender was not just a biological fact, but a set of unspoken rules, rules with real consequences. Published in 1927, Ernest Hemingway's short story Hills Like White Elephants takes place at a Spanish train station. A man and a woman, referred to only as the American and the girl, are waiting for a train. They order drinks, they look at the hills, and they talk around something they cannot bring themselves to name. That something is an abortion, and the conversation reveals everything about the power dynamic between them. The man speaks in constant reassurances. It's perfectly simple. We'll be fine afterward. I know lots of people who have done it. He does not ask, he persuades. He frames the decision as hers while ensuring only one outcome is acceptable to him. The girl, called Jig, sees the hills on one side as fertile, full of life and possibility, on the other side, dry, barren land. This landscape is Hemingway's map of her choice. She knows that if she concedes, she loses something irretrievable, but she has no money, no plan, no voice that is truly heard. Her final words, I feel fine, ring out like a door closing. She is not fine. She has simply stopped fighting. 2 decades after Hemingway's train station, Arthur Miller placed another American family under the microscope. In Death of a Salesman, written in 1949, we meet Willie Loman, a traveling salesman who has built his entire identity on the promise of the American dream. Be well liked, be successful, leave something behind. But Willie is failing, and the tragedy is not just economic, it is emotional and relational. He has had an affair. His sons have internalized his delusions, and Linda, his wife, exists in a constant state of careful management, smoothing over Willie's rages, covering for his lies, begging her sons to pay attention to a man who is clearly unraveling. Linda sees everything and is ignored. Her voice, though steady and constant, carries no authority in a world built around Willie's ego. Meanwhile, Willie himself is trapped in a different cage, the cage of masculine expectation. To admit failure would be to admit that he is not the man he was supposed to be, and so he chooses death, not as a surrender, but as a final performance. His life insurance policy, he believes, will prove his worth. Though separated by 2 decades and entirely different in form, both works share a devastating common thread. In each, characters are denied authentic agency. In each, The cost of conforming to gender expectations is paid in silence, suffering, or death. Jig cannot speak her truth. Linda cannot be heard. Willie cannot survive without the illusion of success, and the American cannot see beyond his own comfort. These are not just literary themes, they are historical facts, and as we will see, they are present day realities as well. Progress is real but incomplete. When Hemingway wrote Jig into Silence in 1927, women earned roughly 57 cents for every dollar a man made. Today, that figure has risen to 84 cents, still not equal. In 1949, when Miller wrote Linda Lohman's Voice into Irrelevance, there were virtually no women in Congress. Today, there are more than ever, and yet women still make up less than 29% of the legislature of the world's most powerful democracy. And for men, the data tells its own story. Willie Loman's suicide is not an anomaly. American men die by suicide at nearly 4 times the rate of women, a statistic that has remained tragically consistent for nearly a century. The pressure to perform, to succeed, to never admit weakness, these expectations are still costing lives. These themes are not relics. In 2022, the US Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade in Dobbs v. Jackson Women's Health Organization, returning abortion decisions to individual states. In that moment, the conversation Hemingway wrote in 1927 about a woman whose reproductive choices are shaped by the will of a man with more power did not feel like history. It felt like a headline. And Willie Loman's crisis, the man who cannot ask for help, who performs success until the performance kills him, echoes in every statistic about male mental health. Men are less likely to seek therapy, less likely to report depression, more likely to die by suicide. The cage that Miller built on stage in 1949 is still standing. What Hemingway and Miller understood, and what the data confirms, is that the question of who gets to speak and who gets to be heard is never just a literary question. It is always also a political one, a cultural one, and ultimately a human one.